Well, howdy folks, it's Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician, making another video for you out of Boise, Idaho. And I'm currently working on a 2001 Buick LeSabre Custom. It's a lot like the Buick Regal Ultra that you seen me do a rack and pinion on. I have a video that covers that. It's actually not as much to disconnect. The Buick Regal Ultra rack and pinion comes with all kinds of like electronic steering assist and whatnot. It's got a big knuckle on the rack and pinion. It's almost impossible to get out. So this job is a little bit more straightforward on the LeSabre Custom. And if you haven't figured out, that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be replacing the rack and pinion as well as the power steering pump and the power steering lines. And in order to do that, I got to remove the suspension, basically disconnect the suspension so I can drop what's known as the subframe. So I can go ahead and drop the subframe. Now I will be suspending the engine and disconnecting the struts from the steering knuckle and all that other good stuff. You can see that I've already got this side pretty much broken down. And while I'm in there, I'm also going to go ahead and be replacing the wheel hubs for them. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to show all you Buick LeSabre owners out there how to break this down. Now we're going to start with taking off our brake system, which is our caliper and our bracket. You're going to have some bolts here. You're going to have one here. You're going to have one down here. And then you're going to have one here. And then same thing as there's going to be another one down here. These will remove the actual caliper. These will remove the actual bracket. So we're going to start here with a 15 millimeter socket because that's a 15 millimeter bolt. Alright, so using my 15 millimeter socket, I went ahead and I removed the brake caliper, the rotor bracket, and the rotor. I've gone ahead and zip tied my brake caliper to my strut spring up here. This way, while I'm in here working, I don't have to worry about it falling down and potentially damaging or breaking my brake line. So there's a little trick for you guys there. Now I think next what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to think ahead a little bit here. I notice I need to get this spindle nut off to get this wheel hub completely out and replaced, as well as getting the axle out and stuff, so I can move this knuckle out and get it disconnected so I can go ahead and drop my subframe. But I noticed that it's really rusted on this side, so I'm going to go ahead and get some PB Blaster and spray that and let it soak for a minute. Alright, and while I let that soak, I'm going to go ahead and use an 18 millimeter socket. I'm going to get my tie rod disconnected from my steering knuckle. A little difficult to do one-handed while holding the camera, but seems to be working out. Alright, I'm going to take my hammer, I'm going to tap all around here, and it will release this tie rod end. Alright, now that I got my tie rod separated, I'm going to go ahead and get this big spindle nut off so I can go ahead and work with this steering knuckle, aka wheel hub assembly, you name it. I'm going to be using a 33 millimeter socket, spindle nut socket, and my air impact gun. This is the point where you're going to want some type of heavy tool, whether it's a big heavy breaker bar with a big pipe on the end of it so you can get the torque that you need. Bottom line is you're going to need a little bit of torque to get this spindle nut off. Alright, now that we got our spindle nut off and our tie rod disconnected, we can work with the steering knuckle a little bit, reposition it so we can get back here and remove. There's going to be one little hidden back here, two, okay, and then same for over here, three. See, my finger is right in here. Let me get back there. Okay, there's a bolt. So you're gonna have 3 bolts back behind here, and you're gonna need to get those out. Honestly, you should be able to get them out by hand with just a socket and a ratchet. Alright, now at this point, once you get your 3 bolts out of the back, you should be able just to grab your wheel hub and pull it out. Now, this version has the ABS sensor integrated into the wheel hub. So when you change your wheel hub, you also be getting a new ABS sensor. So now we've got the wheel hub out. So the next thing that I'm left to do is disconnect the strut, because by disconnecting the strut, this will allow me to drop the rack and pinion down, and also disconnect my sway bar by using a 13mm here and grabbing it with a pair of lock grips here, and then also 13mm here and here, because the sway bar is going to be in the way of pulling out the rack and pinion. So now we're going to go strut to knuckle and sway bar, and then basically we'll be done with breaking this side down, and we'll be ready to start thinking about disconnecting the rack and pinion and power steering system. Alrighty, so I used a 15/16 impact socket on this side here, on the nut side, to get that off. And then as you can see, that's splined, so it's not going to turn at all. So once you get this nut off, just tap that bolt right out, and it separates now. Now all we got to do is get rid of our sway bar here, and we're ready to start moving forward with thinking about disconnecting the power steering system and dropping the rack and pinion. Alrighty, now if all you're doing was, if your plan was to just replace the wheel hub, the wheel bearing, the steering knuckle assembly, wheel hub assembly, the brakes, or any of that, at this point you can honestly stop and go ahead and do everything that you just did in reverse to put it back together. If you have any questions, shoot them to me in the comments. I'll help you out the best I can. As for me, I will go ahead and make a part 2 to this, because I need to drop the subframe. Now I've already got my sway bar disconnected and ready to remove, and so at this point it's time for me to go ahead and suspend my engine, see what engine mounts I need to disconnect, get my hydraulic and scissor jacks and jack stands in place, and start working on dropping the subframe and disconnecting and removing the rack and pinion. So that'll be part 2. I'll go ahead and make a part 2 to this video and put that in there. For now though, it's definitely getting hot, man. It's pushing 100 plus degrees. It seems like, I think it's going to be right at 100 degrees today. So I've been working on this most of the morning, and it is time for me to get out of the heat and go inside. So I appreciate everybody that watches my videos. Thanks for hanging out. If you have any questions, shoot them to me in the comments. I'm real good at exchanging emails and answering them to you. In the meantime, this is Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician. I am signing off.